And now back in the studio, I want to give my thoughts on the game. Philip and Samantha were kind enough to let me take a demo of the game and play through most of one game in solo mode, so I was playing with only one investigator. Like they explained, there are multiple investigators in the game. The game actually comes with 10 different investigators, and if you're playing solo, you have the opportunity to play as just one. The game does balance according to that, similar to how the game would be balanced in Sentinels of the Multiverse, because there's an icon, the IC, which is the investigator count, a very clear green icon when most of the other text is in white. The IC icon is a bright green, so it pretty well stands out as being something different, and that's supposed to denote how much the investigator count is. But I wanted to give my thoughts on the game here after playing through a demo round. First of all, I think that the game really nails the art with relationship to the Cthulhu genre. The art that they've used, and a lot of the art is reproduced only in small form on the Kickstarter, but they do have a couple examples on the Kickstarter page, and I think that I was looking at some of the smaller versions of the art that they have available in a wider display in the page, and it wasn't really striking me as so great. But really, when you get to sit down and look at the cards, it's this penciled art design that you can really evoke, that you can really glean from the example cards that are there. But I think that some of the other cards are really striking. I know that they mentioned the Fire Vampire was one that they mentioned, but I think also the Firebomb is another one that they mentioned, and the Necronomicon. And the art really brings to the style of the Cthulhu game. It really is very much involved in the theme. In playing through the game, though, I didn't really see much that was super innovative about this game, even though it's a very good entry into the deck building class of games. I didn't see much that was really very innovative. They chose to use just one version of currency in this game, so cards that give you currency will always give you moxie. There aren't some cards that could be used to give you 2 buying power or 3 fighting power. They always just give you moxie. So there's not that differentiation that you commonly see in many other deck builders where a card could be used for multiple things. All of these cards here are used for just what they're printed on the card, and then there's just the one currency going through it. That did help streamline the game to a certain degree, especially the way they arranged the turn order, because in turn order, you first get to play any cards sort of before the active phase as part of preparation that you want. But any cards in preparation can't affect the actual monsters. So you can't use those cards to deal damage to the monsters. You can only use those cards for buying cards and preparing and getting ready. And then you do the damage, and then they get to damage you first, and then you get to damage them. So even though there is just the one version of the currency, just the one version of the moxie, I didn't really see that as being such an issue or really detracting from gameplay. If anything, it just helped streamline everything and make it very clear about what it is that you're doing. And the fact that they arranged turn order to be in these 2 distinct phases still makes the decision of how you want to spend your moxie and how you want to do your buying power much more difficult. I know for me, for example, I tended to buy out every single spell I could. So I know by later on in the game, my deck almost became a grab bag of cards. Another thing, unlike I've seen with many other deck building games, you actually start finding ways, in many other deck building games, you'll start finding ways that allow you to cull your deck, that allow you to shrink your deck down to size. In this one, there's not really that. So any spell you buy, other than location cards, is going to stick with you and keep coming up in your whole game. Now, fortunately, I didn't really experience any of the spells that weren't handy when I wanted to use them. Especially because one of the characters, the one that I was playing, gives you a bonus to moxie whenever you play an equipment card. So he was very useful for me to continue buying cards because I would continue to buy equipment or be able to continue getting it. But it did mean as I started going through, I started having a big deck. Now, that's not a problem because, as I said, you do like to have all of those cards. And there's not so much an engine that you start building through here. the cards don't really interact great with each other. It's not like you'll be able to find a combo, or at least not that I saw it. And it could be, I mean, I only had one gameplay, but I didn't really see that there's an engine that you start building through here. So it's not like you'll want to be invested in culling your deck down to size so that you can continue to hit the same cards repeatedly because they tie in towards whatever pattern is that you're doing. You may want to be hitting some of the more expensive cards more often. That's a distinct possibility. But even the less expensive cards I saw still had value in your deck and they were still useful. Now, then, there was a wide variety of the different things that the cards did. This game comes with a ton of cards. According to what the Kickstarter display currently says, there are 447 cards currently available, and I know that they do have intentions of releasing more cards on Kickstarter. So, but, for example, there's 65 unique library cards and 38 unique Mythos cards. Those are really quite unique. They all did different things. Some of them would require you to sacrifice health or sanity, or a direct trade, or as much as you want, or would power up other cards. It would be direct destruction. So each of them is unique. None of them were outstanding in a brand new way of playing a game like this. When you get down to, brass tacks, the game is about being able to find ways to deal damage and survive and strike back at the bad guys and make your way through. There's no set deck for the minions, for example. When you have a minion, he will do something repeatedly. So, for example, one of the minions continues to summon a specific guy, or one of the minions continues to do damage in a specific way, or one of the minions continues to reduce your card pool or destroy your library. So each of the elder gods had a slightly different feel, but it's not as different a feel, for example, as playing a different enemy in something like Sentinels of the Multiverse, where they each come with their own deck. Here, it's all based upon the general idea, the one effect that they do, plus whatever comes up from the mythos. So that can be a little unpredictable, but it means that you're not going to have anything come stale, and it doesn't require having all those different decks. It means that it's really just based upon whatever comes out of the mythos deck. Now then, that could be very interesting and very challenging. And I know that there's a lot of different things that come out of the Mythos deck. For example, for me, when I was playing through the game, I thought I had a way of, in one fell swoop, being able to just strike through and destroy everyone on the board, with whatever card it is that I use. I can't recall what the name of the card is right now, but it allowed me to take a bunch of damage in order to do twice that to all the bad guys. And I was about to use it, and then the Mythos deck popped up with a card that made me discard the last card in my hand, which was that one. I had been saving it. So I did remain engaged for most of the gameplay. It was definitely a tense battle between me and them. I didn't wash over them, and they were doing enough different interesting things to keep me engaged and keep me active and keep me involved. I enjoyed playing through it. I would definitely say that this is a very strong entry into the deck building genre. Not particularly innovative, although I do think that if you're interested in the Cthulhu theme, the Cthulhu mythos, the art and the mechanics of the game, the balance between every player having sanity and health to be able to track, and balancing out how spells will often interact with those, continue to really evoke the Cthulhu theme. And the gameplay is very strong. The gameplay is very good. It's not innovative, but it's a very good gameplay and a very strong entry into the deck building genre. So I definitely say, if you're the kind of person who likes a Cthulhu game and you're the kind of person who likes a good deck building game, I'd say that this is definitely something that you should be looking into. Once again, my thanks just to Samantha and Philip for coming out to talk with me and letting me demo the game.